And so it was the iBlock party?
Yeah.
What is that for? Is that just a celebration of Memorial Day?
Labor Day.
Labor Day? Memorial Day? Couple months off?
It's been an annual thing. Then they took a break during the pandemic. Yeah, it might just be it's just a chance they block off I Street between 11th and 10th and 11th, I think, or maybe 9th and 11th, right around Los Bagos.
Okay. And just have bands
Mm-hmm.
come out, local bands from other areas?
Yeah, it's Absinthe Quartet, the Jim Lahman Band, and then what are they called? The Latin Peppers.
Okay. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I basically live under a rock, so I don't really pay attention to local stuff too much, other than politics seems to suck me in. But the festivities,
Right.
I'm too closed off.
Yes. Well, wherever there's live music, there's often dancing, and
That's right up your alley.
Yes. So.
Do you guys go out? Do you dance there? Do you guys?
Yes. So that's the intent. So our regular class, West Coast Swing, before the pandemic, there was a lot of opportunities for us to dance in the community, and then pandemic hit, and a lot of those bands haven't quite come out.
Resurfaced.
Yes, and the Jim Lahman Band is one of them, who is playing today. So just we're really excited about that and the opportunity to dance to live music.
Is your class nervous? Is this their first time, or?
I don't know how many of our class will be there. It's not like a required thing. It's not like school.
I wasn't sure if it was like, yeah, you can come. We're gonna do lessons, and then you have to dance in public.
No,
A trial by
this is
fire.
more like we put it out there to the universe, and some of our students are ready to put themselves out there and be seen by the general public, and some are less ready for that moment. And then some have family, like I've already had a couple of them say, oh, well, we already made plans for that time period. So it is what it is. You just try to get as many people to show up as possible. And but for the Latin Peppers, there's going to be a large segment of the Latin dance community, of which I'm also a part of. And so that's why it worked out. So we'll get half of Jim Lahman, and then we'll do the Latin Peppers. And so we'll get some dancing in for sure.
Do a lot of your classes show up, or is it that intimidation factor of we're going to be dancing in public?
It's just there's the usual. We have like about a half dozen that aren't shy at all.
Just go for it.
And they'll go for it and be there. You can pretty much count on them being there. And then there's some others that I know they're ready, but they are still. So it's a little bit, like you're a mother hen, kind of like, go fly.
Yeah, nudge them out of the nest.
Yes,
you're going to fly. It's going to be okay.
You can do it.
I would imagine it'd be just dancing. I know nothing about dancing. I wouldn't exactly call myself a particularly good dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of dancing in public on top of just trying to dance
Right.
it's up there.
Well, how many lessons have you taken?
None.
Yeah.
So there's that.
If you have the desire to dance, I can teach you.
Really?
Yes.
That goes for anybody. You don't ever have a
Yes.
person that comes in and you're like, you know what?
No.
Maybe you should look into playing an instrument.
If when they have the desire and they are working at it, then yes. Granted, some people it's a slower progress. It's a little bit more like that frog in the slowly
Boiling water.
Well, yes, like you hardly tell the difference. But yeah, if I have folks come to me for help with their wedding, the first dance choreography, father-daughter dance, mother-son dance, or they want their guests to be able to dance at the reception. So a whole group will come take group lessons for several weeks or whatever. And the ones that want to be there, learn. The ones for whom their arm is twisted behind their back and they're doing it for somebody else, not so much.
Is it particularly hard to teach somebody how to dance? What's our typical timeline? Or does it vary too much?
If they're doing it for purely social reasons, then it goes fairly fine. When they're learning specifically for like a wedding where they know they're going to be performing in front of their family and friends, their anxiety and stress over the situation sometimes gets in the way of their learning, and it piles on with that anxiety of learning something new. So you have to kind of take that into account when I'm putting together something. So, and then just different backgrounds, like folks that already are athletic or have done something similar to dance, where you have to coordinate your arm and leg movement, tend to do better than folks that don't even tap their head to music. The ones that like music comes on and they're stock still. Those are a little bit harder to get to come out of their shell.
Understandably. Is there a certain dance that you start out with? If someone just comes to you and says, I would like to learn how to dance, do you have a dance in mind that you start with to kind of ease them in, or do you let them choose if they want to go swing or if they want to go
my specialty
ballroom?
is partner dancing, some dancing with a partner. And I would talk to them and say, well, where are you when you feel like you'd like to, where that urge comes up, but you don't have the skill? Are you out to dinner? Are you at a fair or a festival? Or what kind of music is playing that gets you wiggling and want to move? And if we can start there, then again, it's an easier process than them randomly picking like waltz, out of a lineup and saying, oh, we want to try that. But they have no idea of what it is, and they don't necessarily, have an affinity for it already.
Or an experience with
Yes.
it. They've never tried to dance.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, but the easiest ones, I would say, for folks that are just starting out and just want something that they can learn fairly well within an hour, would be like merengue in the Latin dance community or East Coast swing. Both of those, if I was to teach a lesson, I could get the whole group moving and dancing within an hour.
An hour? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that because those are a little more structured in terms of dancing?
It's just the step patterns are simple, and they're both upbeat kind of dances that I think relax people and get them going. I don't know.
Just something about those
yeah.
ones.
But that said, I've also had people come to me that surprisingly, like, waltz will be the type of dance that they shine and they love it and they want more, and you just never know. It all comes from within, and that's kind of the fun part of being a dance instructor, is uncovering that gem within inside of them and finding where they shine and helping them achieve that moment. When I finally do see them out in public, or they tell me, Debbie, guess what? I was out there dancing, and we were out to dinner, and there was a little dance floor, and we got up and we danced. We had so much fun. That for me is the highlight of my life.
That makes it all worth it.
It does, yes.
Especially if you just come across them dancing, right? It's not like, hey, come watch me dance.
Right.
Or they're going to be out there dancing. You just are out in public and
randomly,
you see them. Yeah. Like, yeah, you did it.
Yeah, good for you.
Is it easier to learn a dance once you already know a dance? Like, if you learned the merengue, would it be easier to then translate into the waltz or the salsa?
Some styles of dance have a lot of similarity to them. So like foxtrot and waltz share some dance patterns and structure, if you will, and lingo. And then the Latin dances, merengue, it's an easy step from merengue into bachata, and then salsa, cha-cha. Once you know one Latin dance style, a lot of the step patterns, like how you turn a girl, the communication between is very similar. And if you learn East Coast swing, then Charleston and Lindy Hop, so like there's these little families of dance that
are kind of similar.
That are similar enough. And then it's sort of like, what is that in math when you have the three circles? Remember they had A, B, and C.
Yes.
And they overlapped, right?
I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. I know what you're talking about. Like a Venn diagram.
Yes, the Venn diagram. Yes. So you have all these different like families of dance, but there is a commonality to all of them. And that would be like beginning dance, partner dance 101, the basic rules of dancing with a partner. So kind of those things kind of cross over between all of them.
And so how did you get into dancing? Where did that come from?
Wow. Do we have enough time?
It's a loaded question, right?
Well, first off, let me say I'm one of those people that if there's music on, I'm rarely sitting still. So I've always been wiggling or moving or want to get up there and moved since I was a child, and been encouraged to do it, from my family. I've also been involved in music. I played the piano. I majored in piano performance in college, was in choirs, musical theater. So music, dance, performing arts, kind of some level of that has been a part of me my whole life. But the partner dancing, the bug started my senior year in college. I was a dance major, music minor, and just randomly took this ballroom dance class. And this is awesome! But I was a senior, and I graduated and moved on. Stumbled into a career with the National Park Service, moving around, and would randomly take classes here and there, and just like decided, yeah, I've taken a class in just about every style of dance out there, but it's the partner style dance that I just keep coming back to. So then I ended up in Crescent City at Redwood National and State Parks, as a park ranger, and suddenly realized that I just wasn't feeling as fulfilled as I thought I would be working for the Park Service. I mean, I believe in the mission of the Park Service, like morally, like it's a great organization, but the job I was doing wasn't
It didn't give you what you needed.
what I felt like. There was more of me that needed to be out there. And I just started teaching some classes at CR, the branch that's up there in Crescent City, and that was going well. And then a friend of mine saw this house for sale and said, "Oh, you should buy that house and make it transform into a dance studio." And I thought, why not? So I just tend to jump into things with both feet. So I did, bought the house and created a dance studio there. And but that was going great. Then I met somebody who I fell in love with, and he lived down here in Eureka, and he had a small child, so he was not likely to move. So what I did for love. I, in 2011, moved down here permanently, and yeah, Dance with Debbie's been down here ever since.
Well, it's probably a perfect area for that. More so than Crescent City. You have access to a bigger population, I would say. Right? Because then you could get Fortuna, you could get McKinleyville.
Yeah, and you have the university folk that
and CR down there, too.
Right, folks that, although I was the only game in town in Crescent City.
Oh, so you got to walk on the market. Okay.
So anybody that was looking for partner dancing would come to me. So that was, I think, a little bit easier marketing-wise.
Now you kind of have to have the branding out there a little more.
Yeah.
Has that been difficult?
Well, my first thought was I didn't want to step on anybody's toes who was already established, like coming down here, because it seemed like, there are already some, wasn't used to there being peers, people already teaching partner dance. But there is enough partner style dancing out there that easily there's enough for everybody, and there's different styles of teaching. So my style of teaching may really work for you, or for some reason it may not be what you need, and then you go take a class from somebody else and it just clicks.
What was it about partner dancing that really attracted you to it? Was it the movement with another person?
Yeah, it's like it's an unspoken communication that you're having, and when it locks in, it is just the most wonderful experience to be moving in tandem with somebody, to the music, So it's combining my love of music, my love of dance, and the social aspect with people.
It was just the perfect combination for you.
Yeah.
When you were doing, before that, you were doing solo dances. Is that
in college? Yes.
In college, is that what is that? I don't know any solo
like
dances.
Ballet, jazz, tap, African. Yeah.
And it just didn't hit that spot for you.
I enjoyed all of it. I think part of it was that my formal training of dance was spotty. And by the time I got to college, there were folks that had been dancing solidly their whole, they were definitely leaps and bounds ahead of me. And the realist in me knew that if I was to try to make a living as a solo dancer, there was going to be a lot of competition.
Well, with ballet especially, isn't that a pretty cutthroat field?
And I definitely wouldn't make that cut because I had skipped so many years of that. But I there was a time when there was a part of me that was thinking, I don't know, Alvin Ailey Dance Company or some modern dance company out there that I would be a part of, and that sounded awesome. But
that was your goal initially, was to do that, be a part of a dance company.
I'd say more of a dream. Yeah.
Those are good to have.
Like a pipe dream. There's always voices around me saying, you need to have something to fall back on. And and I knew my personality too. Like, uh, especially at that time in my life, didn't yet have quite the confidence. And if I was going on auditions and was constantly getting the no voice or the not quite, that would like eat away at me and it would be hard to keep, and I didn't really want to be that starving artist for years.
It sounds great in theory, right? It's romanticized. The idea of
Yes.
I'm gonna struggle for my art and be penniless, but it's gonna be worth it because I get to do what I
Right. It's going to be like
want to
flash
do.
dance and I'll suddenly be,
Just emerge.
discovered
Yeah.
and everything will work out great. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that. You have to have something to fall back on. I don't know how I feel about that idea. I think it's, in practice it makes sense because then if you don't hit the mark, you're not homeless, which is always a great thing not to be. But I was listening to this speech, and I believe it was by Denzel Washington, the actor, and he said, it's always the naysayers that say you should have something to fall back on. What you want in life is something to fall forward to, so that even if you fall, at least you're farther than where you were before you fell. And that idea kind of stuck with me. And I think it works for you in your sense that you're dancing and you're doing something that you love even more than that dream,
Yeah.
right? So it's not so much that you fell back and you got a corporate job and you're sitting at a
I got
desk.
sidelined for a little bit. Yes.
Okay. In terms of
Well, that going
the
off.
park ranger.
Yes, and living in some fairly remote areas, but I wouldn't trade that experience for anything either.
What? How do you go from a dance major and you said a music minor
Hmm.
to a park ranger?
There's an organization called the Student Conservation Association, SCA, that acts as like a temp agency for all of the land management groups, like Forest Service, Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife. And so I've always also, from my family background, been interested in nature and found out about SCA, and I filled out their little form, and they send me um, a job offer with Lake Mead National Recreation Area, and I thought I would try it. This is pretty much right after I graduated, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with my degree in dance kinesiology. Like, it's like I still kind of figuring it all out. I thought, yes, let's try that. And that job, I was doing a lot of environmental education with children, which involves a lot of theater. I don't know. It's like I was still performing.
Yeah, because you're working with kids, right? You have to keep
Yes.
them engaged, keep them paying
Yes.
attention.
Yes. And I absolutely loved it. I explored that whole side of me through my 12-year career with the Park Service. I worked in 4 different national park sites and had experiences like being flown by helicopter up to the alpine level of the Sierra Nevada mountains and learning to drive power boats at Lake Mead, Lake Powell, backcountry rescue, search and rescue, and hiking and riding horses at Sequoia Kings Canyon National Park. Like
Pretty
all
incredible experiences.
all these opportunities that the government is giving me and training me to do. And I'm getting to see a lot of the most beautiful places in our country and meeting some great people. And like I said, I would not trade that for the world.
How long did you do that?
12 years.
12 years. Oh, wow. So pretty big sidetrack.
Yes. But like I said, in amongst there, like when I was at Lake Powell, one of the other gals that worked there had some ballroom dance training, and she and I started a ballroom dance camp. This was, we were at Page, Arizona, down by the dam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is like a little community there. And we had some folks. We ran that for about 1.5 years, I think. And that was fun.
So you never stopped dancing? It was always
Not
still
really.
there?
No. Yeah.
Was it hard making that decision to switch?
It was more that there were times that I sometimes felt like I was a fish out of water when I would be at social settings with the Park Service. Because I would be wanting to dance and talk about music and dance and theater. And then there would have these folks that were definitely very rugged, earthy, crunchy kind of people. And sometimes, there would be some misfires when we would talk, or I would just yeah, I just feel a little bit like I wasn't quite in that. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I had some great experiences, met some wonderful people, but I hadn't quite found my milieu, if you know what
You
I mean.
didn't quite fit the mold.
Yes.
I don't know what
Nearly, fairly nearly, but not
I
quite.
don't know what milieu means. I've never heard that.
I don't know if I could explain it to you in words. I just know how
Just
it's
a feeling.
used.
Can you
Like
use it again?
it's like your essence of being your field,
Your
your
place.
yes.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
You could look it up.
Milieu.
Millieu.
I trust you. I trust your
Okay.
interpretation. And so then you decide, well, that must be hard though, just deciding to leave something you've been doing for 12 years.
No.
It really wasn't.
No, because like I said, I'd gotten to feeling that while I enjoyed the work, that there were frustrating parts about it.
Like those moments where you wanted to be more expressive and be able to
Yes.
dance and do these things. And
Yes.
when you think of a park ranger, you don't exactly think of somebody
Right.
out
Yeah, you
there
wear a
getting down.
uniform and
You work for the government.
yes. Yes. Exactly.
Very cut and dry.
Yeah. So I just been talking. I had been having conversations with people about my situation, and a friend of mine said that she was seeing a career counselor, and told me the questions her career counselor had been asking her. So I started writing them down like before I went to bed, and so it was all like in my head, all of these thoughts, these things. And one day, somebody asked me, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to teach dance." Like it come from like the most center core of my body, and I realized that is the truest thing that I'd said in years. Like, and I was like, "Huh. Well, now how do I do that?" Because I had been out of the dance world. I'd been, so it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to work hard now to get those skills back and to get to the point where I feel comfortable teaching, because as a teacher you want to yourself be at a certain level. And
Yeah, it'd be a little awkward if you were like, okay, I'm
yeah,
trying to remember how to do this
I'm just
dance.
learning
Give me a second,
myself,
wait, let me
so let's
practice.
learn together.
Yeah.
So luckily I have family in a lot of major cities. Like my sisters are all spread out, and my parents were all spread out, so every time I went to visit family I would also go seek out private lessons. And
Okay, it's little refresher courses.
yes, so I spent like a year starting that process, and then, like I said, started those lessons at CR, and then just it grew from there.
Just fell into it.
Yeah. And I knew I was doing the right thing, even though I never run a business before. I had no clue what I was doing with that. I just decided to do it.
And it worked out.
It has. It's worked out.
That's amazing. I think it's funny how little things like that just kind of fall into place. Like when you were describing that moment of when you said, I want to teach dance. And it clicks. It's like a little light bulb that
I
flips
really, it
on.
literally felt like the words were hanging there
And
in
you're
the
like,
air.
duh, that all makes sense. Why
And
did
I'm
I
like,
not?
yeah, how did I unlock that?
Yeah. Why did it not come sooner?
Yeah.
Where has that been?
Yeah. Well, there are some times when I think, wow, what if I'd realized this earlier in life? In my 20s or 30s, when you have that unbounded energy and, starting a little bit later in life, but it doesn't matter.
Was it a little more daunting where you were starting later in life? Because that's what everybody says, right? It's easier to do it when you're younger. Yeah.
I felt like I had a lot of support. I have a sister that she had just gotten a master's degree in business something, and I looked to her for advice a lot, and she designed my logo for the family discount, which was awesome. And my folks came to visit right after the construction, and were there for the grand opening of my studio, and they had observations and things that helped me. A lot of my friends in the national park community were extremely supportive. Like they came and they took lessons, or they sent me people. So yeah, I felt like I was very well supported and loved, and I just had to pick up the ball and go with it.
I think that's the biggest part. The support network definitely helps. I wouldn't write that off, but I think just making the decision, okay, this is what I'm gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna figure out a way to make this happen. And you did.
I did.
Is it crazy looking back, thinking that, like, wow, I'm actually I'm actually doing
Oh,
this.
I could, shoulda, coulda, woulda of a lot of things, now that having the knowledge that I have now.
Hindsight.
Yes, it's always 2020. But, it's an adventure, and I wouldn't have met some of the people that are in my life now and had some great experiences. And like today, I'm going to go see a bunch of those people that are now a huge part of my life.
Does your family dance? Are they big?
My oldest sister, the one that I mentioned before that did my logo, she and her husband have on and off been taking Argentine tango lessons. And she tells me every time, we started again, we're doing it. My youngest sister, she and her husband tried, I think, some swing dance lessons for a while, but then when she had children, that's what I find. When people have young children, they kind of drop out of class for a while.
Time constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they ever come back?
I think they're thinking about it now because their sons are just at the end of their high school years.
Oh, so we're getting the
So
time
now
back.
they've got the time and maybe the disposable income as well, hopefully.
Do you have a lot of repeat customers in the sense that they take it and then are continuing to take it, or is it like once you learn
Yes.
the skill, you don't really
Yes,
need
or
to?
they'll take class for a while. They disappear. I won't know why. Sometimes I run into the grocery store and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, I love your classes, but we just got an RV and we're going to be traveling for a few months." Or, "Oh man, I broke my hip." Or, I'll just hear anything going on, and then sure enough, like a year later, they come back. And so it's like people just have lives and their interest level kind of ebbs and wanes, and or their time constraints, like you said, like, "Oh, I'm taking a class at the university and it's the same night as your dance class." It's like, yeah, okay.
How many classes are you typically doing?
Well, pre-pandemic, I was teaching every night of the week.
Oh, wow. So you had a full schedule.
Yes.
Different dances every night, or do you do? Okay.
Yes. Plus private lessons. And then I have a day job as well. Not 8 hours, but it was 4 to 6 hours of a day job, and then depending on the evening, I was working 1 to 3 hours a night, and then sometimes weekends as well. I would have some dance related thing going on. When the pandemic hit, and I suddenly had my evenings free, I could make a big meal. I could go out for a movie. Like there are all these choices, or I could spend all day gardening and get hot and sweaty and then just come in and collapse on the couch. It's like, I forgot about that.
I
I'm like,
forgot what it was like to have time.
yes. So I decided that I would just pare everything down to my favorite. I decided to focus on West Coast swing because that style of dance is the most accessible as far as you don't need a big dance floor to do it. You don't need special music. You can dance West Coast swing to just about any music that somebody likes to listen to. And it has a lot to offer to build and grow as a dancer. So it's not a stagnant kind of dance where you're going to learn a little bit and then just be stuck in one
And
level.
just repeating it in some sense.
It's got infinite variety to it. So we're just focusing on that style for our group classes. But I still am doing those private lessons, and depending on what they need or want, I still am touching on some of the other styles.
Was it hard? Were you still doing it during COVID? Was it hard? Because you have to be close with people. You can't dance like
Yes.
dancing over Zoom wouldn't be the
It does.
best.
It's hard to teach a three-dimensional activity from a two-dimensional source. Yes, especially when a lot of it's reliant on that tactile, the pressure between, like, how do you explain that? But right when the pandemic hit, I'd been working with a couple that was getting married. They had paid for a package of lessons, and they had 2 left. So I did fulfill their 2 lessons, but we worked in their backyard
Oh, that's
and wore
perfect.
masks.
Yeah.
So yeah, that worked out. And then my partner and I put together a whole series of videos. It was like in the first 6 months, we got all excited because I had this video editing program, and we went on the side of our house. We have like a cement area, and we filled all these, what's the word?
Like a tutorial?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
And put it out on
On
YouTube?
Facebook.
Oh, There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. So that was fun. Then the pandemic kept going on. So, and people just, the more it got on, the less people seemed interested in partner dancing. So we just worked on other things for a while. And then as the restrictions were lifting and it seemed as if things were getting better, we offered a limited class, like just 9 people max, and everybody had to wear masks. And preferably you come with your partner because we're not going to provide one for you, and no rotations of partners. And so we did that for 3-4 months. And then and again, it just seemed like people were getting more comfortable, and we were having at that. You asked if we had people returning. We had kind of the same group that was coming.
Pre-COVID.
No, for that when we restarted again, when we were doing that limited class size with masks, it was kind of like the same people. And so then we said, hey, how would you guys feel if we removed the masks? And since we all kind of had formed like this little bubble,
Yeah, you were already
we
together.
kind of experimented, that. And it was just as their comfort level. And so that kind of evolved to where we are at now.
Has it picked up to where it was pre-COVID now?
Not completely, no.
It's still a little slower.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that getting better as more? Or I would imagine most people are pretty much
Yeah, no,
back.
I think it'll definitely, especially if I would work harder at promoting myself.
That's the toughest thing, is getting the not necessarily the advertising, but the branding out there. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yes, and which form? Like, should I use Instagram or Facebook? Like, which one's the best? And how is the best way to use that format? Because my demographic is so big. It could be anywhere from teenagers to senior citizens.
Yeah,
Just-
how do you target that?
Yeah, just basically anybody who has got sort of a yearning to learn to dance with a partner, they need to call me.
Do you have to have a partner when you take your lessons now?
No, at this point, no. We are rotating around, and so again, depending on comfort level. So I still have a few people that will continue to wear a mask, and that's fine. It's all up to them. My partner and I will often join in the rotation, and we do that because we like to know how our students are doing. So the only way to gauge their progress is to dance with them, and then we're able to give them a little one-on-one during class. So usually we try to at least get one full rotation around where my partner and I each able to dance with everyone in the room. Yeah.
And is your partner an instructor
Yes.
as well? Okay.
He is, yes. I was very lucky to come across him.
Yeah, that's perfect,
He
right?
kind of fell in my lap, but
Was he an instructor prior to meeting you, or did you kind of turn him on to that?
no, well, how do I? In his teenage years, he and his sister were in a performance ballroom group down in Southern California, and he followed a school of dance to become instructor in that. I can't remember the name of it. It was kind of an awkward title. So yes, he was in from the age of like 11 to 19. He was doing performance ballroom dance and teaching ballroom dance down in Southern Humboldt. But then he ended up becoming a competitive surfer, and then
Oh, that's a big change.
yes, then that was traveling into some far-flung corners of the globe. And then he got married and had a child, which we talked about already, as changes your life. But it was when he was separating from his wife that he walked into my studio, and we kind of had a conversation where I said, I've got class going on, and I kind of taunted him a little bit, I think, because I didn't believe
He could dance?
Yeah.
Oh, how funny is that?
And so he came that night, the next night, and then pretty much we've been in contact ever since.
Oh, wow. He kind of took on the challenge. He's like, I'll show
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
We'll
I know
see
what
if
I'm
I can
doing."
dance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so do you guys do that together? You said you have a part. You also
Yes,
have
he's
a
my
part-time
life/dance partner.
business. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And what is your day job?
I work at Zane Middle School.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I'm an ELD technician. I work with students for whom English is a second language. So they some of them are still translating in their heads, which sometimes slows down their learning process. And so we just try to support them with their homework or just and their growth in English as a language.
Was that a class or just almost like an after school support
It
network?
it works two ways. We do have a class, and that tends to be the ones that are just emerging.
Need more help.
Yes. And then we focus on a lot of instruction there. And then for the others that are still they're doing okay on their own, but they kind of stumble here and there, we go into their classroom and are there to kind of go around and help when they've like the teacher says, okay, now work on writing this essay. Then we would go around and say, okay, what's going on? How can we help you?
Just that added support
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that Zane had that.
Yeah. All of Eureka City Schools does.
Oh, wow. I had not heard of that. I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention when I went there. How long have you been working there?
I'm in my 7th year now.
Okay, so a little before my time. I'm talking about you being
Oh,
at Zane. I was trying to
yes.
think if you were there when I was Zane. I was like, I don't think so. I don't even know when I graduated there, but it was a long time ago. Maybe early 2010s,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, different time.
Yeah. I started in 2015.
Okay. Yeah, I graduated high school in 2016.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, there you go.
Go.
What got you into that?
Well, we've already talked about that. The dance business, the attendance tends to ebb and wane.
Fluctuate. So
Yes,
this was like
fluctuates.
a safety thing.
I needed, some a budget that I could count on to pay my personal bills, and I started out basically as a monitor, just kind of walking around, checking on kids during break and lunch and everything. And then just before the pandemic, they offered me the opportunity to start as an EL tech, and that kind of grew. And yeah.
It's interesting that you're still working with kids and you get to do the dance as well. Because it seemed
Yes.
like the kid aspect was a big part of the
Yes.
parks, and you like
Yes.
that, and
I
then
do. I
you're
do
still
like
working with
that
kids.
interaction with, especially, and I had no idea middle school would be my thing.
I would
'Cause
imagine middle school would be challenging.
Yeah,
Middle
but you know
schoolers are
what? They're awesome.
really.
Yeah. Most of them tend to get my sense of humor, and I really appreciate where they're at in life. You can reason with them.
I don't know if you would have been able to reason with me as a middle schooler. I don't
You
know
might
if I
be
was.
surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. Middle schoolers are not if I had to think of a demographic in school that I would want to try to reason with, middle schooler is not at the top of that list. Those kids they're just wild.
Well,
Or at
yeah,
least
there's reasons for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Their whole brain is rewiring to go from the original wiring of follow what your parents do no matter what for safety to rewiring them to be completely independent. So there's a lot of misfiring going on as their brain restructures itself, and then throw the hormones in.
What a mix.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that age the most? Do you like working with, like, if you had the option to switch to a younger or older demographic?
Definitely not younger. I tried. I also, another thing that I did in there, throwing that into the mix, was as I was a seasonal ranger, I did substitute teaching in the winter. So I've had a few careers. So yes, I as a substitute teacher, I was in everything from kindergarten to high school.
Oh, so you've hit the
Yeah.
whole range.
Yes,
And you like middle schoolers.
I do. I
Huh.
do. They're interesting.
They are interesting in the sense that you're right. They are at this almost pivotal point in life where things start to ramp up and really, really change.
And for those that are exhibiting signs of like trauma, childhood trauma that's been affecting their lives, junior high is the pivotal point if you can make a change in their life so that they can then be successful in life. So if you can reach them, if you can work with them and kind of give
I
them the
hadn't
help
thought
that they
about
need.
that. Is that it's kind of like a last ditch effort in middle school? Like if
You
you
know,
can't reach them in middle school,
It's
good
going to be
luck.
harder. Yeah, much harder as they get older.
Do you notice that in a lot of kids post COVID, in the sense that a lot of them are kind of teetering?
Oh, COVID, definitely. Oh,
Because I've been
boy.
interested in that. I don't know anybody. My mom is. She's a receptionist at a school, or she works in the front office. And so I kind of get things from her of hearing like,
Which
okay,
school?
Ridgewood. So she works at
Okay.
Ridgewood. Yeah. And she likes it, but I'm always fascinated like how are the kids doing just on like a global scale like cuz
Well, when
COVID
they
was hard. COVID was hard on kids.
it was when they first came back, a lot of them lacked social skills. Like they just didn't have the experience of interacting with anybody other than their family. And you know how every family has your own norm where maybe cussing is okay or just
Different standards
yes,
that might
different
not be okay
standards.
in public.
Yes. Or just a different sense of humor or whatever it is. But interacting with people that come from different norms, different backgrounds, and being able to interact without causing, ruckus and learning how to be kind to your teachers as well as anybody else. Um, and then expecting them to last a whole school day of sitting in a classroom when they've been having all that freedom.
Which was hard already.
Yeah.
Now we're going back to school.
Now we're going back to
Yeah.
school.
Yikes. Where a lot of them I would imagine, a huge adjustment period coming back. But the social aspect, does it feel like that's kind of
I feel like we're getting back in the swing of
balanced out?
things.
Okay.
Yeah. It was difficult for everybody. I mean, the teachers too, because um, most of the teachers had to switch suddenly from live students to online, and there's various levels of experience and ability with technology. And so then there was this hybrid moment where some of their students were still online and they had to say hi on the computer screen while some were in the, and trying to juggle that. And it was, yeah. And I think a lot of teachers changed their teaching style because of everything that happened and maybe became more tech savvy.
You almost had to.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the beginning when it was all online. If you weren't tech savvy, good luck.
Yeah.
Gonna figure it out.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah, sink or swim moment. Yeah, I do not envy kids that were still in school in COVID. I was in college, and college Zoom was rough. So I can imagine being in high school or in middle school and trying to deal with that.
What was your major?
I was a computer science and cognitive science major. And that, which is ironic because, we're working with computers, especially in obviously the computer science, but in cognitive science as well, it's pretty technical. And yet it was just not working through Zoom was not the way to teach anything.
No.
It just doesn't
No,
translate.
it's really hard to interact. It's
Yes.
to get your question, to say, I have a question, and for a teacher to read the room, like, was that well received, or,
Yeah, did you understand that?
Yeah.
Are we all on the same page
Mhm.
here? I would imagine it's easier to get left behind,
Mm-hmm.
especially in middle school, because,
Mhm.
just
Oh,
zone out. The teacher's not going to notice anyways.
even normally, they don't usually say, I don't understand, because I don't want to stand out, or they're worried about, And so, yeah, even less when it was on Zoom. If they didn't get it, they just didn't get it. And then they would clue out.
I was one of those kids where I would not ask a question. I would rather die. I was going to ride it out. I was going to figure it out. Luckily, I didn't just kind of zone out and lock it away. I was going to figure it out, but I wasn't going to ask a question in class. And I don't know what that stems from. I don't know if that's just a social pressure of not wanting to be the one that doesn't know or
Yeah.
not. I think that's the
Yeah,
biggest
to
aspect,
stand out.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, I don't understand this.
Until you know who you are and you're comfortable with who you are and how you want to portray yourself, you don't want to put yourself out there in case that's the wrong you, right? Like, oh my God, I just did that, and oh crap, that's not how I wanted to
be
look.
perceived.
Yes.
Especially in a moment like that where there's a perceived vulnerability attached to it. Of, oh, you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
She just explained it, and you don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want to be that one.
Mm-mm.
Is that? How do you fix that? Is there a way to solve that with children?
What I try to do is, as frequently as I can, check on the students that I know are struggling, check on their grades. And when I see their grades have dropped, I go seek them out and say, hey, you've got this, I see that you've got a D, and that's because you've got these 2 assignments not turned in. What's going on with that? And then try to pull them from them. Why haven't you finished that assignment? Oh, I don't really understand. Okay, well then let's work this out together. And try to find time where I can maybe pull them out of gym or something so that they can finish their social studies assignment that will help them pass the class.
Now, with that, do you think that more kids got left behind because of COVID? That's one of the big tropes, right? Is, are we leaving children behind when we do come back?
What I saw, unfortunately, was a lot of standards dropping in order to accommodate.
Just push them through.
Yeah. Because it was so hard to reach them and give them the support that they needed, you couldn't call them accountable for things under those circumstances. Like, oh my gosh, here they're, it was like, I think the thought was, they're going through so much and having such a difficult time. Why should we expect so much of them? So let's, lessen the expectation. So I feel that there's going to be, for all students, that they might have dropped a grade, what the expected grade level is. Just maybe even nationwide, just all over, because they just missed out on a lot of the reinforcement and the support that they needed in order to retain what they were supposedly learning.
That's a scary thought. And then how do you can't really catch them up from that?
No, but depending on their age level, they can accelerate past it.
If they get that support.
Yes,
back.
so once they're back into a learning situation that is good for them. And for not everybody is the traditional classroom the best. Some, like we have the charter schools. For some students, the best environment for them is something that's alternate. But once they are in the learning environment where they have the full support and everything, and they can get going, they can then fully catch up and just go with it and get past all that and move ahead if they, I guess there has to be a desire, but I think a lot of times they're just chomping at the bit.
Well, I think that was another aspect of COVID was when that was taken away, right? A lot of kids, if you took it for granted, I think missed it and missed the aspect of being at school. And that the thirst for knowledge is, it's kind of cheesy when you say it like that, but it's a real thing.
It
People
is.
actually want to learn.
They do.
You just have to make it enjoyable.
Yes.
If you make it, unpleasant.
With the right teacher, dance teacher, whatever teacher, with the right teacher, the right classroom setting, the right environment, people will thrive. And the younger they are, the more resilient they are, and the more their brains are like sponges, and you can just cram it in and they learn, they accelerate their growth. With the older kids or the adults, your brain isn't quite as resilient. If for like you being in the university, that you may not have been able to recover as much from that.
I know, thank God I got out. It might have been difficult for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's scary thinking about that and thinking about especially the lowering of standards in some regard. Do you see that? Has that come back?
No.
It's now at that lower baseline.
Oh, you meant no.
The standards. So you said a lot of people were dropping standards because
the standards came back. Yes, the standards came back. Yes. I thought you meant did that attitude come back?
The attitude
of dropping the standards.
Oh, okay.
No, that mindset, we don't have that mindset anymore. It's definitely, I feel like all the teachers that I talk with are like, let's get back to business as usual. Is
there a desire to provide more support now for those kids that were slipping up? Or
definitely a desire.
But it's just a lack of resources? Or?
Yeah, it's really, funding. It'd be great if we had enough money in our district to hire more counselors, so that the ratio of counselors per students was higher to help with those that have had trauma and need a little bit more social or mental support, and that we could have smaller class sizes overall, because definitely students learn better when it's fewer students. I mean, think about your university class when they're like 200 in auditorium.
We would have some classes where I remember one in particular, it was at least 400, and we had kids sitting in the aisles because there weren't enough seats. Mm-hmm. And it's just, what? Make more classes. I don't know. Hire another teacher. Do something. This is not effective because nobody's asking questions because there's not enough time.
There's not.
I would go to office hours, which it's never the instructor teaching. It's always some undergrad who doesn't want to be there or some grad student who's just trying to work in some extra credit here and there. They don't want to be there. They don't want to help. And you're waiting for hours
Mhm.
just to get one question answered. And if they don't answer it, well, how does that help
Yeah.
anybody?
Yeah.
What are you paying for?
Yeah.
Yeah, the education system is I'm jaded towards it, I think you could say. I think it has the potential to be something really good.
Well, it's filled with people that
Teachers do care. Some teachers really do care.
and they burn themselves out because they care so much.
And then you get the teacher that
And then it's
just
almost
doesn't care.
expected that they work long hours and go the extra mile and use their own money to buy school supplies because we tend to be that sort of people that would do that. We're of the helping mindset.
And then there's no expectation to add support because, well, the teachers will pick up the slack.
Right, because they always have. Yes. So it's like a vicious circle that
Doesn't help anybody.
doesn't really. No. I mean, I see the people around me doing the best they can. Everybody's trying really hard, and the students, I feel like they've come through, and we're back to kind of more normalcy.
More pre-COVID-esque.
Yeah. So I just, cross my fingers and hope, have faith in the future. Faith in this generation that maybe they'll do something to make things better.
I don't have faith in this generation. I don't even have faith in my own generation. When kids started eating Tide Pods, I realized, oh, we're struggling. We were struggling. And that was before COVID. We had people doing that.
That's true. That is scary.
Now I think of what's next. How much lower do you sink from that? Where does that go? What happens to those kids? If you're eating Tide Pods and then you just had to deal with COVID and now you've got all this global strife
Right.
and anxiety.
That is probably the scariest thing of being a teacher is how, especially at that age, the junior high school age, is that the media, like the TikTok and how much it consumes that age group. Like, I'm going to be a TikTok star, or what's happening to all of this social media.
Really? Are they saying that in middle school? That's what they want to do, is be a TikTok
Well, I
star?
don't know if I've heard those words exactly,
But they're just consumed by the media.
yes, and those that have access to their phones are to that, through their phones at home. Like I said, every household has different norms, and for some, they're watching R-rated shows and they can access whatever they want on the internet, and some it's more restricted, and so you have yeah. Anyways, it's just scary. I wish we could take away social media from everybody until they're adults and can handle a little bit more.
That's not an unreasonable position when you think about it. We don't let kids drink alcohol because it messes with them and it's not good for them. But we let them have access to everything. Everything. Which when in history before would you have that? That you could just Google any experience or
Right.
see anything.
Right.
And now it's in
And
your
taunt
pocket.
and bully people.
Is that big? Because I go back and forth when I hear the bullying online. Sometimes I'm like, well, yeah, just don't let the kids on the platform. But it is so ingrained in their social circles now. Is the online bullying, is it as big as it's portrayed to be?
I can't speak to it for sure because that's not my purview. I don't really.
Yeah, I guess you're not really on there. Like, hey, are you guys
right?
What are we?
And I'm not dealing with that discipline side. Like, I don't know for sure how many, but I hear enough reference. Like, I'm not blind, and I am quite aware that more students than I want to have. I want to believe more students than I want to believe are caught up in social media and image and being popular.
Did you notice, or have you noticed a difference from when you first started back in like 2015 to now with that social media aspect? Has it gotten
My job
worse?
changed enough. I don't think I could answer that question. No, I haven't personally noticed. With what I do now, I have much more one-on-one personal,
So you can see that change a little more
yes,
now.
or I know more about what they're doing. Before it was a little more impersonal. I would just kind of monitor from a
You're just
distance.
seeing the way. Well, yeah, especially as a monitor.
Yeah,
I would imagine you're not
yeah,
involved really in these kids' lives. You're just
yeah,
watching over them.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like social media is good,
No,
especially at that age. I'm not social media's biggest proponent, and I'm 24. So tracking it down to being in middle school, I would not be a fan.
I definitely feel like it's I am not that technologically savvy, and it drives me crazy that I have to find a way to promote. Like
You have to be in that
I
world.
have to be. If I want to make money, then I need to figure out how to do Instagram and Facebook and spend time on it when I would really rather not. So, yeah,
It's just that way now.
it is.
It's not. It's you. I think you can survive, but
Yeah.
it's not comparable if you're
You just
not
you
out
don't
there.
know what your potential customer. Everybody has, like, there are some people that are still, the best way to contact them is by an email. So every once in a while, I send out a Dance with Debbie email. Hey, remember classes? And those people that check their emails send back, oh, thank you. And I'm like, okay,
I got
contacted,
one.
got them. And I'm like, okay. And then there's the ones that you have to text because they will only respond to texts. And then there's the ones that, you definitely need to put something on Facebook. And then you find them, and um,
It can be overwhelming.
it is.
I feel that way now. I've had a number of guests come on and say, you should do TikTok because you would reach a ton of people and it could blow up. And I'd keep dragging my feet, mainly because the China connection freaks me out on a deep level. I get that we're already selling data to Apple and Google and all of that, but the connection to China kind of worries me a little bit. And then it's another platform. It's just another one.
Yeah.
And then what? Is there going to be another one? And then I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I
I know. That is
it's
frustrating.
too much.
It does seem, just as soon as I learn the ins and outs of one, either they come up with a new version of it, like Windows, or a whole new thing comes out.
And then it repeats the cycle. Then you have to learn
Yes.
that one and then
It's
adapt
like,
to that one.
how much of my life is spent doing that when I could be gardening?
Or I mean, especially where you're dancing, you're doing this
Right.
this human thing. I mean, how long have people been dancing? How long has music been around?
Since there was
Forever.
fires, dancing around the fires, celebrating
Yeah, and
kill. Yeah.
it's just an intensely human thing.
It
Just
is.
this movement of your body, and then to go to a screen where you're not connected to anybody and there's no personal touch or flair. You don't get the same, even just sitting across from somebody talking. You're just looking at a screen. You're looking at digits and pixels, and it doesn't feel the same. Especially with bullying, like you wouldn't have half of that if people had to say it to your face.
Yes.
But because it's this screen, and because
you can be anonymous and just, like, yeah,
and you're sitting at
write all
home
kinds of
in your
nasty
bed.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel the same as if you were in that person's face and you were saying these things and seeing their reaction and getting that feedback. Social media.
Social media.
It's a problem. Yes, I was just going to say, we can wrap this up. We have been going for an hour. I don't want to keep you any longer
God.
because you've got to go dance. Do you want to plug where people can find you, where they can find Dancing with Debbie?
Yes.
Take classes?
Well, I have a website, dancewithdebbie.biz, and you can find me on Facebook, Dance with Debbie. Join our Wednesday night class, West Coast Swing Wednesdays, at Redwood Rocks World Dance Studio in Arcata at 6:30. We'd be glad to have you. It's drop-ins are welcome all the time.
Any experience level?
Yeah, absolutely. Any
Okay.
experience level.
And then you also offer private lessons and
Do
people
private
can
lessons.
reach out.
Yeah, so you can email me, dwdhummelt@gmail.com, or call me 707-464-3638.
Okay. And then Dancing with Debbie Facebook.
Dance with Debbie, it's a command.
Dance
yes.
with Debbie. Okay. Awesome. Well, Debbie, thank you. I really enjoyed talking with
Yeah,
you.
thank
We'll have to
you.
get you back on.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks.
Thank you.